Treasure map came in the mail today. Where is this adventure going to take us? Got an undisclosed treasure in here. Let's get into it. I've said this before, I'll say it again. That is just a clean branding right there. It's a clean logo, a clean way of branding. Bright red line, bold white letters, good contrast, easy to convey message, and it's easy to point out anywhere. Excellent logo. All I'm needing now is like a black t-shirt with like that Xarmony logo right on the front. So in this package he included some stickers, because you know I love a good sticker. I still got my old sticker right there. And it also includes two of the business. That is just clean. Look at that business card. And then you flip it around on the other side. That's just cool, yo. Great branding, great marketing. Now, let's check these out. Open this up here and we are met with a gang of samples. Now, as always, his fragrances tend to have a plethora of notes, and the composition tends to be quite unconventional. So I don't want to sit here and try to speed and just brush through all of these fragrances, and I don't really get a chance to sit down and spend time with them. So we're gonna go over one on this video, and then we'll take time and go over each one in separate videos. So we did that for the last sampler pack we had. And in that sample pack we had Castle Black, we had Cairo, we had another one, and we did separate videos for those. So that way you can sit with each fragrance and spend time, especially when you got a fragrance with a hefty note layout. The fragrance that we're going to go over today out of this sampler set is Acqua Di Famiglia. From what I could recall, this was a fragrance that was, most of the notes were handpicked by his Instagram following. I believe some other followers from some of his other social media. They all came together and collectively wanted to make a fragrance. I thought this was truly unique, and I hadn't seen a lot of other perfumers do this. Everybody was able to handpick and sort of vote for what notes they wanted in the fragrance. It's a hefty note layout, so it gave everybody who wanted to participate a chance to be able to chime in and be able to see their note that they picked within the fragrance. He also used a lot of his expertise to realize what would work, what wouldn't, what would clash, what would mesh well, and he was able to sort of sift through all those choices, collect as many as he could, being respectful to the audience as he could, and formulate a fragrance based off of those answers. I'm super excited because I've been hearing a lot about this. I'm heard that as soon as he made this was just flying off the shelves and he wasn't really able to keep this in stock. So let's get into it. Me attempting to guess the notes on his fragrance is usually, that's a dead end. It's really hard to gauge a lot of what's happening in his fragrances. Just the compositions tend to be a little elusive. And so we'll see how this goes. We're going to attempt to guess as many notes as we can on this fragrance. Sprays there. This one comes off, looking at that note layout, I was expecting this one to come off a little bit more punchier. This one's actually really chill. Got a nice airy, smooth, I want to say singular vibe, but it smells like there's a bunch of notes in a single file, if that makes sense. You're getting like some sort of a berry musk tanginess that's coming up with that as well. It's like a musky berry or fruit tanginess that's a little sharp, a little sparkly. I'm getting like this jammy, almost potpourri vibe. So it could be a rose in there as well. Something almost jammy, potpourri like it's a hydrated potpourri, almost like a rose almost. You're getting something that smells like a tangy fresh apple. But it's a ton of things in there that I'm catching, but I can't put my hand on exactly what. I want to say I'm catching a mandarin, possibly an apple, possibly a black currant. That's kind of attributing to that fuzzy, tangy potpourri rose vibe. I want to say I'm catching a rose. believe there could be jasmine in here as well. Yeah, I'm catching like that pretty soft white perfumey vibe. So I want to say it's jasmine. If not jasmine, it could possibly be an ambergris, but I'm not catching that. With ambergris, it usually has like that powdery, really like clean, light, sultry vibe to it. I can't really explain it because it's not deep and dark or anything like that, or at least the ones that I've experienced isn't. It's usually like a powdery, light, sultry. This one comes off real perfumey and pretty, but white, floral kind of a vibe. I'd gamble and say that I'm catching I'm possibly catching a lavender, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a hint of cherry. It's some sort of cherry or berry that I'm catching. A little back and forth action I'm catching with that. There's something salty, a saltiness there. It's like a salty sea air kind of a vibe. I wouldn't be surprised if there may be some aquatic notes in this, but he usually doesn't do that. He usually goes through and just hit you with the singular notes that build up that accord instead of just having that accord. Something slightly like an aldehyde that I'm catching, but I can't quite place that. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm catching some oak moss in here. I want to say I'm catching a pink pepper and a lime. I feel like I'm catching a lime and lavender is what I'm catching as possibly that salty and airy vibe. I believe it's a combination of me catching some lime and a little bit of that and some lavender. Okay, so as of right now, that's all that I can honestly pick out. I'll have to let this one sit on my skin a little bit longer to see how it unfolds, to see what it's doing. But right now I am catching a smooth, airy, salty, clean, musky, tangy. I don't want to say fresh because it's not coming off fresh. It's coming off clean, salty, fruity. But I'm not getting a fresh vibe. It's not coming off blue. It's not coming off aquatic per se, but it does have some of those elements. Has a slight floral funk going on there. Usually when I'm catching that funk and I always blame it on a floral, it ends up being like a grapefruit. But I'm not catching enough zestiness. I'm not catching enough grapefruit, the meat of a grapefruit, and I'm not catching enough rind or peel to blame it on a grapefruit either. But there is a faint funk that's here that usually I catch from a grapefruit. So I'll go ahead and include that as well. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the notes and see how off we were and see exactly how this was composed. So right here we have orange blossom, mandarin green, we have black pepper, aquamarine, we have tonka bean, clementine, ambergris, and grapefruit, and oak moss, bergamot, magnolia, mimosa, which I believe has possibly a lime, so that's pretty cool. Cypress, citrus, orange, amber, peach, melon, neroli, cedar, lily, as well as iris. So I was catching a little bit of that powderiness from that iris. There was an ambergris here. There was a grapefruit here. There wasn't any jasmine, so I was incorrect on that one. I don't know what aquamarine is, but there was, like I said, some aquatic tones, but it didn't come off like a blue. It didn't come off like a freshie or anything like that. Even with all these citruses, we mentioned mandarin, but we didn't mention green mandarin. So we didn't mention that. We mentioned blackcurrant, we mentioned cherry, lavender. None of those are present. We mentioned like an aldehyde vibe. So I wonder does aquamarine, does that kind of attribute to that sort of a vibe? Oh, it's really interesting. It's fruity, but not in an annoying way. It's fruity, but in a really controlled, and I don't want to say balanced, because I don't think that's the right word for this fragrance. I feel like there are some misbalances here, but they're not drastic. They're not over the top. They're not obnoxious. They're just barely done. They're just slightly done. I'm dying to see how this fragrance pans out in that dry down, to see how it changes up, to see how it transitions a little bit. So far, I'm really impressed with this one. I mentioned pink pepper but it wasn't pink pepper, it was actually a black pepper. Also, that tonka bean will give you a little bit of that as well, like a little bit of a peppery vibe, but not a whole lot. Also, the tonka bean can give you sometimes like a little bit of an almond vibe, and almond itself can give you sometimes like this cherry vibe. If you ever smell certain forms of almond in a fragrance form, it comes off super syrupy, sweet, almost cherry like. So that could have been why I was trying to catch a cherry vibe from, is possibly that tonka bean. Acqua Di Famiglia, Xarmony Perfumes, Xarmony Perfumes. Love this full and just saturated note layout. I love how adventurous he gets, how almost childlike the imagination gets. But in this particular case, this was attributed through his following. So shout out to his Instagram followers. Shout out to all of you guys who contributed in picking these notes. This was a great composition. You guys picked some excellent notes that combine well with each other, mesh well, and was able to create a truly unique fragrance. I will drop a link in the description where you guys can check out his particular website, browse through his collection, and see if there's anything that catches your attention. But I will say is, when you get to his website, you will find a bunch of fragrances that are truly unique, that aren't really something that you're used to in independent, niche, alternative, black owned, whatever you want to call it. You're not going to find anything like these. Truly peculiar composition of notes, just the process in which he chooses to compose, how he compose. Everything is done with a flair that's just unmatched by him. And that is from the Imperial Hokage, Pure Noel. And that is it for this video, you guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I will catch you guys soon.